It's time for the Money Puzzle Podcast. With good conversations and realistic solutions to the money puzzles we all face every day. I'm your host, financial advisor, chartered financial consultant, and president of Edgen Insurance and Financial, Robert Edgen. Now let's get this show started. Hi there, hello, and welcome to the Money Puzzle Podcast. I am Robert Edgen, and I'll be your guide for the ride for the next few minutes. Each week, we look at a different piece of the money puzzle and practical ways to solve it so you can have the financial confidence you deserve and the
future that you dream of.
That's right. Here in the house with me today, it's my brofessor, the money professor, Brian Johnson, my business partner from D-Town. That's Denver, not Detroit, although technically you're from Detroit. Close.
Well, close.
Close. Anyways, Brian,
Yes.
Thanks for joining me in the studio today.
You're welcome.
Driving down from Denver again. It's the middle of winter, and you're braving it.
Yeah, middle of winter with 45 degrees.
I know it's beautiful outside today. Well, there goes. I'm trying to give you credit for driving in the snow, but okay. All right, so this is episode number 36, and today we are talking about the important financial moves to make in your 40s. We've been making our way through all of the adult decades. We've already covered the 20s. We talked about the 30s, right? Which means now we must be in the 40s.
You got to be.
Which coincidentally, the 40s are about, that's where we are.
Yes, at the end for me. Pretty close. Yeah.
You're that much older than me?
Yeah, a bit.
Okay. I'm just barely in.
You just have more gray than I do.
That's
why
absolutely
you
true.
think you're closer in age to me.
I'm younger than you and I look older. I don't know how that worked out. So anyways, the 40s are, according to my math, about midway through life. So, chances are you're going to live to be in your 80s or so. So you're halfway there by the time you get in your 40s. But financially speaking, you're probably about 2/3 of the way through your working life.
Right.
Your opportunity to make money. So financially speaking, there's a lot of things that need to be done. Sure, you can work into your 70s and 80s if you want to, but there's a reason that you don't see too many people in their 70s and 80s holding down careers.
Not necessarily careers, but a lot of our retirees these days are still working part-time at least for something to do.
Yeah, they're looking for something to do, but they're tired of the careers. They want to relax. So
working at the golf course.
Working at the golf course, that's right. So the money moves to make in your 40s are getting more serious in nature because there's still a lot that you need to get through in the next 20 years or so before you quit working.
20 to 30 years.
So that's right, before you quit working. So before we get into that, I'm really excited to have that conversation, but we thought we'd do something a little bit different today. Yeah. Instead of the news, which we normally do, we thought we would take a question from the viewer mailbag. Yeah. So Brian, will you grab that letter out of the mailbag for me?
Can't find it.
Well, I don't think people who are listening and not watching have no idea how much I enjoyed watching you look around.
That was pretty funny.
Obviously, we don't get any mail anymore. It's all emails, but we do have an email question to answer from Gilda right here in town. It says, I just received a large amount of cash from my mom's estate after the sale of her house. I'm hesitant to invest this in the market because it seems that I'd be buying high right now. How should I handle these funds? Well, that's actually an excellent question.
It is.
If you get a large sum of money at the height of the market, what do you do?
And it is a big concern for people. Well, first and foremost, you don't want to leave it in the bank. What are you making in the bank these days? Even on a large sum of money? Not much.
I call my bank money my bubblegum money.
Right.
Because at the end of the year, I can walk in, collect the earnings, and put it in that bubblegum machine on my way out.
Well, maybe, because a bubblegum machine is, 50 cents now? I don't even know. But anyways, basically what you end up doing, my best advice on that, without really knowing her full situation, is dollar cost average into the market. So do a little bit at a time every single month. So if you got $100,000 as an example, you don't want to necessarily put $100,000 in immediately. Start buying every once in a while like you would during your working years in a 401k. Every single month or every 2 weeks, you just put a little bit in there.
So dollar cost averaging is basically buying shares the same time of the month, let's say, or once a month. The same amount of money, the same day of the month, and doing it over a consistently long period of time.
Right. I mean, at least a year.
At least a year. And the thinking behind dollar cost averaging is that as, markets go up and down and stock prices go up and down and investment costs go up and down, sometimes you're going to be buying when investments are up. so you buy fewer of them. Sometimes you buy when they're down.
That's
So
right.
you buy more. But over the course of a 12-month period or longer, then they average themselves out.
Right. So hopefully in that time when you're buying all the peaks and valleys, that where the market ends up, you're going to be somewhere below it.
Somewhere below it. And you have not had those concerns of throwing
Right.
all $100,000 in, maybe on the peak day of the market for the year, just to now watch your money go down, down, down.
That's right.
So, all right, got it. Excellent question, Gilda. Thank you for sending that in. And to anyone who has a question about your own money puzzle, you can email those to us at questions@yourmoneypuzzle.com. We'll make sure that we get them answered for you. So that's it for that. Now let's go ahead and get into today's hot topic. All right, so we're talking about the money moves to make in your 40s. And what we've been doing is kind of counting down the top money moves to make for each
Right.
decade.
Yep.
Right? Starting, not that any of them are not important, but kind of working from the lesser to the more important.
Right. It's kind of hard to quantify that, but yeah,
Right.
they all need to be done.
They all need to be done. They're all important. But even if we reverse the order, they're all important. They all need to be done.
That's right.
Okay. But we kind of went through and we found 7 that kind of piggyback on what you did in your 20s and your 30s and now completing or finishing, or not even finishing, but continuing on with the journey.
You're continuing on with the journey. You're just making some adjustments to it.
So, all right. So, number 7, I have down as maximizing your earnings. And really, this is about, you should be now in your peak earning years.
Hopefully. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. You know, in your 20s, you're getting through college, getting out of that, you're starting your career. In your 30s, you're hopefully getting promotions and, you know, building your career.
Yeah.
But by in your 40s, you should be figuring out how to maximize your earnings.
Right.
Right. Obviously, you know, you don't have to make a boatload of money, which is a technical term.
It
by the
is.
way.
It is in the dictionary.
Yeah, boatload.
A financial, what are they called? I don't know.
Iterations?
I don't know. Something funny.
Financial literacy.
There you go.
Yeah, Rob's,
I think we studied it.
Rob's definition of financial literacy, boatload.
Yeah. Volume number 1.
So that's right. That's slightly more than a crap ton, by the way, a boatload. But
Volume number 1, page number 1 of 1.
max of 1. That's right. Maximize your earnings. You know, as you get older, you want to be putting more money away or to be doing other things to prepare for retirement. Well, you have to have funds to use, and you should now be at the point in your career where you're finding ways to get promotions or maximize your earnings.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, why not? So basically maximizing income or maximizing your earnings also comes into play with number 6, right? It's all part of it, which number 6 is?
Permanent insurance. you know?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
Right.
Right. So in your 20s, we said, go out and get a 10-year term, right? In your 30s, we said you got to convert that 10-year term,
To,
either a 30-year term or a
Yeah.
20-year term.
or adding some permanent insurance to it.
That's right. So it now might be the time to change that term insurance into permanent insurance. You know, there's a lot of debates out there, and we've had a lot of life insurance conversations, so we don't need to get into the debate about should you have term or should you have permanent. You know, I personally believe that you should have a combination thereof for most people. Everybody's situation is different.
You're right. That's correct.
But if you're going to have some permanent insurance, which just means you're looking for things that are going to last your whole life.
That's
Right?
correct. Yep.
The younger you are when you do it and lock it in, then the cheaper it's going to be.
Right. And you can pay it up.
You pay it up, which means
Yeah.
you can pay it off early.
Yeah, you pay it off early, which is a fantastic idea.
I love the idea of going into retirement with less expenses, and one of those big expenses could be your life insurance.
That's right. If you don't have to make that payment, just like your house payment, you go into retirement, no payment.
That's right.
Things are golden.
The most successful retirees I know are successful because of their lack of debt.
The lack of expenses.
Lack of expenses.
That's right.
That's right. And life insurance can be a big expense. So if you can pay it off early, you should. Now, should you or do you need permanent insurance? That's a personal right.
It is.
Right. You got to kind of work through that with your advisor or, figure it out. But most people need some permanent life insurance that's going to last, all of their lives. So the sooner you can do it, the better.
A great example, I have $500,000 in permanent. I have another $1.5 million in term.
I'm almost set up exactly like you.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
The $500,000 is more for creating a legacy.
Right.
Or, assisting with, unknown things that maybe taxes are different in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to make sure that those things are paid so that your family can get all of your cash and investments. So life insurance can be important for a lot of reasons, but getting that done in your 40s, if it makes sense, and if your budget affords it, it's a great time to do it versus waiting till you're older, because every year you wait, what happens?
It gets more expensive every single year, and up to 6 months before your next birthday. So you always got to keep that in mind.
That's a great point. A lot of folks don't realize that life insurance age is different than your normal age.
That's right.
Most insurance companies now go by what is called your closest to age. So, when you turn 40, well, you've technically been closer to 40 since you were 39, 6 months and a day.
Yep.
And until you reach 40 and 6 months and a day, you get that 40-year-old rate.
Right.
But you're right, absolutely right. So what age are you closest to? That's the one that you're going to be using for your...
And if it's a month after that 6 month mark, you can always save age. Well, you can save age all the way up to a year.
Save age just means
really
that you
want to do that.
That you backdate the application. And the life insurance companies know this. It's not cheating.
Yeah, no.
It's a question.
It's offered.
Would you like to save the age? But that means that let's say you turned, in my example, 40. Let's say you turned 44 months ago and you said, oh gosh, I should have done this.
Yep.
If you backdate it, if you save the age for 4 months, you have to pay those 4 months.
Yep, you absolutely do.
That's right. So you still have you got a much bigger upfront payment. So maybe it makes sense if the price difference is...
If it was 30 days, okay. If it's more than that, I mean, that could be significant. You're not going to save that much over time.
No, I agree. I almost never save age on life insurance applications. So, all right, so that was number 6. By the way, these things that we're talking about in your 40s, it's not like you turn 40 and you better go get this stuff done today.
Right.
These are the things to do during your decade, during your 4th decade, right? All right, so that was number 6. Brian, how about number 5?
Tax strategies. Now, we're not CPAs, so anything that we talk about here, you guys really need to talk to your CPA or a qualified tax professional for this.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I thought of that I've been doing for several years now is conversions from traditional IRAs over to Roth IRA. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that, you don't have to do it, but you can do small portions every single time all the way up to the entire amount. I've been doing it over the last 5 years. Slowly, incrementally, every single year. I mean, this year, Rob and I were talking, I totally cleaned out my wife's traditional IRA, and she has nothing but Roth now.
So the benefit of converting a traditional to a Roth IRA is that at some point in time in the future, when you take the money out, you pay how much in taxes?
0.
What if you take it all out? How much do you pay?
0.
That's right. You never pay any money or any taxes, when you are taking the money out. And how about when it's growing, how much tax do you pay?
0.
That's right. So Roth IRAs are great, but there are advantages, to having traditionals. You get a tax break up front when you put the money in. So what Brian has been doing is looking at his adjusted gross income, how much he's going to make per year, and you talk to your CPA about, hey, where's my adjusted gross income going to wind up being, because you get some deductions and so on and so forth. And then if there's any room in that tax bracket still, then you can convert some of your traditional IRAs over to Roth. It counts as income.
It does.
Right? At the tax bracket that you're in.
Federal and state.
Yep. So and Brian and I actually had a debate about this, and the truth is, this one's a little bit hard for me because I want every tax break that I can possibly get, and I want to roll money over after my income is low.
Right. He wants to pay taxes in the future when it really counts in retirement. I'd much rather pay it now and not have any when I retire.
Or the way that I look at it is I want to wait until I can have a break from earning income. Yep. And so I have a $0 income, or maybe, because I'm spending down, let's say, savings instead of income. And then while my income is down, I can convert at a lower tax bracket. But what's the big flaw in the thinking there?
Well, the big flaw in the thinking is that tax brackets are going to be the same in the future.
That's right. What our tax bracket's going to be in the future?
Don't know.
We don't-
Probably higher.
That's right.
Who
so,
knows?
so I see both sides, which is
Yeah.
why I like the idea of converting some
Right.
and not going over that.
That's why he doesn't know that I sent in an order to convert all of his IRA this year to a Roth.
I signed nothing. I signed nothing. So one of the good things that we've got going on right now is that taxes are the lowest that they have ever been, that since any of us have ever been alive.
Since I've been alive, that's right.
So,
Because when I was born, they were crazy high.
and you're older than me.
Yes.
Yeah, so definitely
Right.
the highest that I've ever seen, or the lowest that I've ever seen right now, too. So, yeah, we don't know what they're going to be in the future.
no.
So if you have a low tax bracket situation, which we do, then it's good to take advantage
Yeah,
of it.
why not?
Another part of that is this is a great time to add a Roth to your 401k.
Right. So most 401ks these days have a Roth and a traditional component. So you can choose between the two. Mm-hmm. So now would be the time to start really considering, based on your AGI,
Adjusted gross income.
Adjusted gross income. How much can we afford to put into the Roth IRA that wouldn't push us up into the next tax bracket? And you can even do a combination of.
That's right. So when you put money into your 401k, for easy math, let's say you made $100,000 and you put $10,000 into your 401k. Well, the IRS then thinks you only made $90,000.
Right.
Right. So there's an advantage to moving that money over. When you put money into your Roth 401k, it doesn't count that way.
That's right.
Right. So you still pay taxes, but the benefit is you don't pay taxes on the back end when it comes out.
So out of that 10 grand, you can split it in two. You can say 5,000 Roth, 5,000 traditional, or 1,000 Roth, 9,000. It doesn't really matter.
Now, what happens if you've got an employer who says, "Look, if you put in 5,000, I'll put in 5,000." That they would never do that. It'd be more like if you put in. If you put in 3,000 of your 100,000, they'd put in 3,000. Actually, some of them would. If you put in
Some
5,
might.
they'd put in 5.
Possible.
So, but what happens now if you say, "Well, I want to put it into a Roth instead"? Well, then what happens to that match?
The match has to go to the traditional. A company cannot put money into a Roth 401k. Cannot. It has to go to the traditional side.
Yeah. So one thing that I like to do and recommend is split it up. And everybody's situation is different. So you want to talk about what's your specific tax situation, but I like to do it where if your employer is going to match 5, then I usually find it might make sense to, well, I'll put away 5% in my traditional 401k. They'll put away 5%, and then I'll put the rest of my money into my Roth 401k.
Right.
But truthfully, it's always different based on your personal situation.
It is.
So, all right, that was numbers 7, 6, and 5. Do we have time to do one more? I think we do.
We do.
All right, so number 4. It's time to take a look at your investment portfolio and make sure it's diversified and rebalanced. You should have by now, if you've been following along in your 20s and 30s, a decent little chunk of money in your investments.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So once it's gotten to this point and it's gotten bigger, and you also are, not that you're close to retirement, you might be 20, 30 years away, but it's time to look and find out what has happened with my investments.
Yeah. I mean, you could have had significant growth, especially the last 10 years.
So if you started off and said, hey, you know what, I need to be doing 70% for growth and 30% for safety, let's say. Well, then you had a great decade, and your 70% growth has exploded, and now that's now you might have 90% of your money in growth and 10% in safety just because of the difference in how fast they've grown. Well, as you get older, you need to keep those on the right schedule as far as how much is for growth and how much is for safety. If you never look at it, it gets out of whack. It gets unbalanced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to be in that position that someday when there's another correction, right? And maybe you're closer to retirement now than what you were, and you're like, oh, I wish I would have.
That's right. So it's good to take a look and rebalance to find out, okay, where should I be? Should it be 70% growth, 30%, for safety?
You might say, oh, I'm very, very aggressive. The truth is most people are not. When people say they're very, very aggressive, chances are they're more on the 70-30, 60-40 side of things between equities and fixed income. Most people are that way. Very few people can actually take the risk and the volatility of the market.
Emotionally speaking.
Yeah, emotionally, when things get risky. When we see volatility go up in a normal market, most people cannot handle that.
Everyone is aggressive and loves risk when things are going up.
When things are going up.
That's
when
right.
Things are starting to go this way, everybody is crazy conservative.
That's right. That's it for this week. Reviewing the list. Number 7, you need to maximize your earnings.
Yep.
Right. Look for ways to make sure that you're getting all that you can out of what you're doing. Whether it's asking for a raise,
Changing jobs.
changing jobs, getting into management, whatever it might be. But
Right.
now should be that time. Number 6.
Number 6 is considering permanent life insurance, whether it's all or a portion of your term policy.
Yeah, and I don't-
converting it over. I don't necessarily think you need to do all of it. Depends on what your financial situation is, but at least a portion of it.
I talk to very few people where we look at their situation and we recommend all of it. It's usually some portion there.
I recommend Rob convert all of his to permanent, but
I'll keep that in mind.
Okay.
I'll run that by my wife
right.
as well. Number 5, tax strategies. It's time to look at, do we need to add in some Roth? Should we reposition some of our regular converted into Roth? How are you doing your 401k?
Right.
What portions thereof? So look at your tax strategies.
that's right.
And number 4, diversify and rebalance. Make sure that your portfolio is on track and set up the way that it should be set up so that you can run better projections and know what it's going to do going forward.
That's right.
So, all right. That was it for this week's number 7, 6, 5, and 4. We'll be back next week with numbers 3, 2, and 1 of the things to do in your 40s. Not necessarily more important, but definitely important.
It is.
So-
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Until then, if you got any value out of today's show and you know someone who could use a little help with their finances, please share us with them. Go give us a rating on whatever podcast app you're listening to this. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up or tell others about us. We would appreciate it. And again, if you've got any questions, email them to questions@yourmoneypuzzlepodcast. Easier for me to say.
It is.
Questions@yourmoneypuzzlepodcast. No. Questions@yourmoneypuzzle.com. Oh my
There
gosh.
you go. Jeez.
There we go. All right. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Until next week, be safe, have some fun, and go do something to improve your money puzzle. Your future self will thank you for it. See ya.
Bye.
Registered representative of and securities offered through Securities Management and Research, Inc., SM&R. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through BFC Planning, Inc. Edgen Insurance and Financial Services, Johnson Financial Services, SM&R, American National Family of Companies, and BFC Planning are independent entities. There are risks involved with investing which may include market fluctuation and possible loss of principal value. Particular investments may not be suitable for certain situations. Carefully consider the risks and possible consequences involved prior to making an investment decision. Our firm does not provide legal or tax advice. Be sure to consult with your own legal and tax advisors before taking any action that may have tax implications.